Okay, welcome to my surrender. And what my surrender is I've surrendered power over to this episode. And I'm surrendering power over to this channel, as a matter of fact, because no matter what I do, no matter what I plan, the episodes and the channel seems to have their own idea of what they want to do. So I'm going to learn to sit back and just listen to them and follow along because they're going to have a lot better plans. Remember all the magic that I talk about? I think that's what this is. So anyways, this episode, instead of being about growth within You Choose Your Own Parents, this one is actually about a concept that I remembered from the Seth Material called value fulfillment. And what's incredibly perfect about this is value fulfillment is the whole reason why we come down and choose to be born, which fits perfectly in with You Choose Your Own Parents. So stick around. I'm Michael Kowal, and welcome to my world. So if you're not familiar with the Seth Material, I'd say check it out. It's fairly amazing stuff. It was a number of books that were written back in the 1970s and 80s. And it's really about, well, the first book that I found is called The Nature of Personal Reality. And I remember opening it up in a used bookstore, and it just kind of pretty much blew my mind apart. It expressed, honestly, everything that I had been thinking for myself, but couldn't put into words and had never seen anyone talk in those terms about life and reality and ourselves. And just amazing stuff. Now, I'm going to include a few links down below. The first link is going to be actually a kind of an essay with a much better and more full explanation of what value fulfillment is, much more than I can get into here in this video. Another link will be, it's a searchable database, and you can put in search terms like, the meaning of life or, physics or whatever you want to take a look at. And it will bring up hits within the Seth Material of where it's referenced and what, his take is on each of these things. Pretty fascinating and amazing stuff. And then the final one is a link to the Seth Center, it's operated by Rick Stack, who was one of the original students of Seth back in the 70s and 60s, maybe too, late 60s. And so he's put together, he does both workshops, I believe, as well as keeps all of the books in print and published, which, he's a good guy. I've met him before, and just an amazing bunch of stuff. So if you're looking for anything on that, take a look at those three. So what I'm going to end up talking about today, now that all of that stuff, the housekeeping is out of the way, is that we're going to get into the definition of what exactly value fulfillment is. Second thing we're going to talk about is why it's so important. And then the final thing is where I'm going to wrap it in to let you know how it all fits with the You Choose Your Own Parents. And it's actually integral. And really, honestly, it's the reason why we're born. Now, I've taken, and what I did is I kind of took a lot of the different explanations that Seth has had for what value fulfillment is, and I've kind of put together my own little, concise definition. So value fulfillment is a drive in each of us, propelling us to our own greatest fulfillment that also adds to the development of everyone and everything else. And I'll repeat that. It's a drive in each of us, propelling us to our own greatest fulfillment that also adds to the development and fulfillment of everyone else. Now, if you remember back to my video about Mrs. B and getting beyond yourself, that's the spark that I was talking about in there. That spark of, okay, I'm at kind of where I'm at right here, and I'm presented with a situation, and something is kind of telling me to go into the situation to actually do it, right? That's value fulfillment. Is to try to be the best person that we can be. That's what it is, in a nutshell. And it's pretty amazing. So of course we're at the why, yeah? So the why. Why is it so important, this value fulfillment? And I think you can probably already guess that, right? Because if you're looking to fulfill yourself here, you're basically talking about the meaning of life for each of us as individuals. The reason why we came down, the reason why we chose to be born. It's the thing that drives us through this life. Talk about the most important thing there is, right? That's exactly it. Now, for each of us, so for some of us, including me, you can sit there and not really understand what the particular endpoint is that you've chosen. For others, you've got that, maybe you've chosen to become a concert pianist or, crush a quarterback like I keep talking about. Or you can just as easily choose that you want to experience more compassion. You want to learn compassion. Or perhaps you want to learn courage, bravery. You want to get beyond things, any of those. But within all of that, whether you know what you want to get or if you don't, you're still left with that kind of spark, as I call it. That's that action, the value fulfillment. You get that feeling in your life, right, where you kind of know that, this is something I want to do. This is what I want to try. Now, every time you go in that direction towards your own value fulfillment, to become fulfilled as the being that you are, it always feels lighter, doesn't it? Right? Every time you try that, every time you go in there and experiment and try and heading in that direction that just somehow feels right for you, it feels lighter. And that's how you know you're going in the right direction. And what's the opposite? Of course, the opposite is very heavy. It feels just literally heavy, or that you're stopped completely. Because a lot of times we do that, right? I mean, we stop ourselves from going in sometimes any direction out of fear. I've certainly done that in my life a lot. Kept stationary in one place because I was too afraid to try something. And then what ends up happening in those situations, and Seth even mentions it a few times, is that's a lot of times where illness comes from. Because you're stressing your system so much because you came here as a life. You came here as a being to live a life, and you're not looking to fulfill yourself as that being. And so what ends up is it feels like you're dying. It feels like you're stopping the very life force from going through you. And it makes sense. And that's the difficult one. So always remember, whatever you do, follow the spark, follow the value fulfillment, and make it happen. Okay. So I know that you're smart, right? I know that you're smart and you've probably already figured out the whole how of this, which is how they go together. How does value fulfillment and choosing your own parents, how does that work together? It's pretty evident. With the value fulfillment, you've got your end point, but where you're going to be fulfilled once you achieve that, right? But in order to get to an end point, you have to start somewhere. And where you start is with your parents, with that one beautiful, simple, elegant, single decision. You set up everything. You kind of set up your playing field in the game that I'm keep talking about, this game that you're playing in this life to achieve that end point. So with that one decision, what do you get? You get your family. You get your relatives. You get your community. You get your body, right? Because of your mom and your dad, right? It kind of goes together. You kind of understand what you're going to get as a result of that. And you also get the time that you're born, whether that is medieval times for that particular life, or if you want to be born here in 2020, somewhere in the world, which would be a very incredibly interesting time to be born and see what that life is going to be like. But anyways, with that choice of your parents, you kind of in a way choose whether it's going to be a direct or fairly direct path to that end point that you want to get to, or it is maybe going to be a little bit more adventurous path, maybe with some twists and turns along the way, or potentially some difficulties or major difficulties, again, depending on the parents. Remember what I said before, that end point, your value fulfillment. Maybe your life this time is you want to learn compassion, or maybe you want to learn bravery or courage, right? Well, to learn bravery or courage, you have to start off with incredible fear. And with that one choice, you can set that up, that particular game. Now, you can also hopefully realize and see in this whole process as a reminder that this is also you're controlling it. You're the one who has the power because you've chosen that end point that you want to be fulfilled with. You've chosen the parents that you started off with. You create your world. You have that opportunity every day. And understand that that's your greatest power, is to understand that you're not a victim of anyone or anything. You chose. And that's a fun, powerful, freeing idea, right? So, now, the deal is, as I said in the opening, this channel, I have learned, controls what comes next. I don't. I just sit back and I flap my gums a little bit to express whatever it is. So I can't, promise any particular thing is going to come up. But my guess is I'm pretty certain that it's probably going to be another one of the You Choose Your Parents, because there's a lot of interesting, fun stuff within here as we go even just a little bit deeper. It's going to kind of explain a lot of things. So hopefully it'll be next one. I'm not promising anything. We'll see. But definitely take a look at the links down below for the Seth Material. Really interesting stuff there. And if you liked it, hit the like down there, subscribe, share it, whatever you'd like to do. But in the end, remember, you are the one with the power. So go out there. Remember value fulfillment. Remember that spark. Follow that spark to get to the place you want to be. And that's how you end up living. Love ya.